Good afternoon. You're listening to Ken Hudnall. This is the Ken Hudnall Show. Coming to you from our studios right here in exciting El Paso, Texas. Gateway to the Old West and the most haunted city in the country. Well, today is February the 3rd, 34th day of the year. Just 331 days remain. The year is over with. Holidays and observances. Doggy date night. Take your pet out for a exciting time. National Golden Retriever Day. Elmo's birthday. National Carrot Cake Day. National Sickie Day. Sometimes life just throws you an unexpected curve and lay on the couch, put your feet up, and just enjoy the time. Feed the Birds Day. St. Blaise's Day. It's a Croatian holiday, especially in Dubrovnik. People from all over gather in Dubrovnik streets, adorned with flags and other costumes, to honor their patron saint. National Women's Physicians Day. Take a Cruise Day. The day the music died. Buddy Holly, Richie Valens, and the Big Bopper. They died over 60 years ago. Their plane iced up and it crashed. National Wedding Ring Day. National Patient Recognition Day. National Call-In Single Day. American Painters Day. The Four Chaplains Day. Celebrates the bravery and selflessness of 4 Army chaplains. They were each from different faiths and made the ultimate sacrifice to save others during a time of great peril. It emphasizes the importance of unity and compassion, even in the darkest of times. National Missing Persons Day. You know, in this country alone, over 100,000 people a year vanish. No rhyme, no reason. National Cordova Iceworm Day. Now that is a major holiday, folks. Women's Heart Week. National Children's Mental Health Week. World Interfaith Harmony Week. Publicity for Profit Week. Tinnitus Awareness Week. La Poutine Week. National Storytelling Week. National Green Week. Tapati Rapa Nui Festival. That is known as the Rapa Nui Festival. It's on Easter Island, held every year in early February. It's a 2-week event. Brings the island to life with traditional Polynesian music and dance and competitions. It's if you've never been to Easter Island, it's something you don't need to miss. Pay Your Bills Week and a National Networking Week. Feeding Tube Awareness Week. National School Counseling Week. Boy Scouts Anniversary Week. Burn Awareness Week. Solo Diners Eat Out Week. National Patient Recognition Week. African Heritage and Health Week. Pride in Food Service Week. Famous people born on this date: Elizabeth Holmes. February 3rd is part of International Vegan Cuisine Month, National Heart Month, National Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month, National Snack Food Month, National African American Read-In, Spay and Neuter Awareness Month, National Children's Dental Health Month, Human Relations Month, National Macadamia Nut Month, Feline Fixed by 5 Month, Exotic Vegetables and Starfruit Month, Berry Fresh Month, National Therapeutic Recreation Month, Marijuana Awareness Month, National Goat Yoga Month, Financial Aid Awareness Month, Adopt a Rescued Rabbit Month, National Mend a Broken Heart Month, Canned Food Month, National Wedding Month, National North American Inclusion Month, National Black History Month, Renaud's Awareness Month, Renaissance of the Heart Month, Spiritual Teachers Month, Pull Your Sofa Off the Wall Month, National Senior Independence Month, National Laugh Friendly Month, National Enrolled Agents Month, National Care About Your Indoor Air Month, International Boost Self-Esteem Month, Free Open Source Software Month, From Africa to Virginia Month, National Sweet Potato Month, National Avocado and Banana Month, Fabulous Florida Strawberry Month, National Cancer Prevention Month, Spunky Old National Blobbuster Month, Ethnic Equality Month, National Cat Health Month, Humpback Whale Awareness Month, Dog Training Education Month, Declutter for a Cause Month, National Prevent a Litter Month, Creative Romance Month, and A Fair to Remember Month, National Women Inventors Month, National Embroidery Month, Youth Leadership Month, Haiku Writing Month, Jobs and Golf Month, Love the Bus Month, Potato Lovers Month, Celebration of Chocolate Month, Barley Month, Wise Healthcare Consumer Month, National Self-Check Month, National Condom Month, Pet Dental Health Month, National Parent Leadership Month, Relationship Wellness Month, National Grapefruit Month, Low Vision Awareness Month, National Fasting February, Return Shopping Carts to the Supermarket Month, Great American Pie Month, National Cherry Month, National Bake for Family Fun Month, National Hot Breakfast Month, National Bird Feeding Month, National Library Lovers Month, and Harley Quinn Month. Good Lord, a lot of things this month. Alrighty, that having been said, in 1047 A.D., Drogo of Hauteville is elected as Count of the Apulian Normans during the Norman conquest of southern Italy. 1112, Ramon Berenguer III, Count of Barcelona and Duché I, Countess of Provence, marry, uniting the fortunes of these two states. 1451, Sultan Mahmud II inherits the throne of the Ottoman Empire. Okay, in 1488, Bartholomew Dias of Portugal lands in Mosel Bay after rounding the Cape of Good Hope, becomes the first known European to travel so far south. 1509, the Portuguese Navy defeats a joint fleet of the Ottoman Empire, the Republic of Venice, the Sultan of Gujarat, the Mamluk Burji Sultanate of Egypt, the Zamorin of Calcutta, and the Republic of Ragusa in the Battle of Diu in Diu, India. 1583, the Battle of São Vicente takes place off the Portuguese Brazil, where three English warships, led by navigator Edward Fenton, fight off three Spanish galleons, sinking one in the process. 1637, Tulip Mania collapses within the Dutch Republic. 1639, the House of Assembly of Barbados meets for the first time. This day in 1690, the colony of Massachusetts issues the first paper money in the Americas. 1706, during the Battle of Frostad, Swedish forces defeated superior Saxon, Polish, Russian force by deploying a double envelopment. 1716, the 1716 Algiers earthquake sequence begins with a 7.0 main shock that caused severe damage and killed 20,000 people in Algeria. 1781, American Revolutionary War. British forces seized the Dutch-owned Caribbean island of Eustatius. 1783, Spain-U.S. relations are first established. 1787, militia led by General Benjamin Lincoln crushed the remnants of Shays' Rebellion in Petersham, Massachusetts. For those not familiar with it, Shays' Rebellion was an armed uprising in western Massachusetts and Worcester in response to a debt crisis among the citizenry and in opposition to the state government's increased efforts to collect taxes in both individuals and their trades. Fighting took place in areas around Springfield during 1786 and 1787. Historically, scholars claim that the 4,000 rebels called Shayshites who protest against economic, civil rights, and justice of the Massachusetts government, led by Revolutionary War veteran Daniel Shays. People are always unhappy about the taxes. So 1807, British military force under Brigadier General Sir Samuel Akmuti captures the Spanish Empire city of Montevideo, now the capital of Uruguay. 1809, Territory of Illinois is created by the 10th U.S. Congress. 1813, Jose de San Martin defeats the Spanish Royalist army at the Battle of San Lorenzo, part of the Argentine War of Independence. Unbelievable. There we go. (1830). The London Protocol of 1830 establishes the full independence and sovereignty of Greece from the Ottoman Empire as a final result of the Greek War of Independence. 1862, Moldavia and Wallachia formally unite to create the Romanian United Principalities. Wallachia, of course, is the home to that international statesman, Dracula. 1870, the 15th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution is ratified. Guaranteed voting rights to male citizens regardless of race. 1913, the 16th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution is ratified. Authorizes the federal government to impose and collect an income tax. Now keep in mind that this 16th Amendment dealt with something that was allegedly put into effect to fund World War I. It's supposed to be a temporary tax. Of course, it wasn't. No government's ever done away with a tax. 1916, the center block of the Parliament building in Ottawa, Ontario, burns down with the loss of 7 lives. 1917, World War I. The American entry into World War I begins when diplomatic relations with Germany are severed due to its unrestricted submarine warfare. 1918, the Twin Peaks Tunnel in San Francisco, California begins service as the longest streetcar tunnel in the world at 11,920 feet long. 1927, revolt against the military dictatorship of Portugal breaks out at Oporto. 1930, the Communist Party of Vietnam is founded at a unification conference held in Kowloon, British Hong Kong. 1931, the Hawke's Bay earthquake, New Zealand's worst natural disaster, kills 258 people. On this day in 1933, Adolf Hitler announces the expansion of Lebensraum into Eastern Europe, and its ruthless Germanization are the ultimate geopolitical objectives of the Nazi foreign policy. 1943, the SS Dorchester is sunk by a German U-boat. Only 230 out of 902 men aboard survive. 1944, World War II. During the Gilbert and Marshall Islands campaign, Army and Marine forces seize Kwajalein Atoll from the defending Japanese garrison. 1945, World War II. As part of Operation Thunderclap, 1,000 B-17s of the 8th Air Force bombed Berlin. That raid killed more than 2,500 and between 2,500 and 3,000 and dehoused another 120,000. 1945, World War II. U.S. and Philippine Commonwealth began a month-long battle to retake Manila from the Japanese. 1953, the Batapa massacre occurs in Sao Tome when the colonial administration and Portuguese landowners unleash a wave of violence against the native Creoles known as Foros. 1958, founding of the Benelux Economic Union, creating a testing ground for a later European Economic Community. 1959, rock and roll musicians Buddy Holly, Richie Valens, and J.P. the Big Bopper Richardson are killed in a plane crash along with the pilot near Cool Lake, Iowa. Now, that event became known as the day the music died. I mentioned that earlier. 1959, 65 people were killed when American Airlines Flight 320 crashes into the East River on approach to LaGuardia Airport in New York City. 1960, British Prime Minister Harold Macmillan speaks of a wind of change, signaling that his government's likely to support decolonization. 1961, U.S. Air Force begins Operation Looking Glass, and over the next 30 years, a doomsday plane is always in the air with the capability of taking direct control of the U.S. bombers and missiles in the event of the destruction of the Strategic Air Command's command post. 1966, the Soviet Union's Lunar 9 becomes the first spacecraft to make a soft landing on the moon and the first spacecraft to take pictures from the surface of the moon. 1971, New York police officer Frank Serpico was shot during a drug bust in Brooklyn and survived to later testify against police corruption. 1972, the first day of the 7-day 1972 Iran blizzard, which would kill at least 4,000 people, make it the deadliest snowstorm in history. 1984, Dr. John Buster and a research team at Harbor UCLA Medical Center in the U.S. announced history's first embryo transfer from one woman to another, resulting in a live birth. 1984, the Space Shuttle program, STS-41B, is launched using Space Shuttle Challenger. Challenger 2 years later was destroyed. 1989, after a stroke 2 weeks previously, South African President P.W. Botha resigns as leader of the National Party, but he does stay on as president for 6 more months. 1989, a military coup overthrows Alfredo Stroessner, dictator of Paraguay since 1954. 1994, Space Shuttle program, STS-60 is launched, carrying Sergei Krikalev, the first Russian cosmonaut to fly aboard the shuttle. 1995, astronaut Eileen Collins becomes the first woman to pilot the space shuttle as mission STS-63 gets underway from the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. 1998, Cavalice cable car disaster. U.S. military pilot causes the death of 20 people when his low-flying plane cuts the cable of a cable car near Trento, Italy. 2005, 105 people are killed when Camair Flight 904 crashes into the Pamir Mountains in Afghanistan. 2007, a Baghdad market bombing kills at least 135 people and injures an additional 339. 2014, 2 people are shot and killed and 29 students taken hostage at a high school in Moscow, Russia. 2023 saw the 2023 Ohio train derailment. Freight train carrying vinyl chloride and other hazardous material derails and burns in East Palestine, Ohio, releasing hydrogen chloride and phosgene into the air and contaminating the Ohio River. Well, there's a lot of odd things going on. We've been talking about a lot of it. Let's see. There we go. Cover a few news stories. There's a story making the rounds that legislation was introduced into Congress to abolish the federal income, payroll, estate, and gift taxes. That would be interesting to see. According to another story that came to light, the Pentagon budget includes $600 million a year for sushi. I have to wonder about that. Personally, sushi is not on my gotta-have list. Now, I am told if your doctor orders a test or a treatment and your insurance company denies it, there's a way to address that. You call your insurance company and tell them you want to speak to the HIPAA, HIPAA compliance or privacy officer By federal law, they have to have one. Then ask for the names and credentials of every person accessing your record to make that decision of denial. By law, you have a right to get that information. They'll almost always reverse the decision shortly after that, rather than admit the committee is made up of basically high school graduates looking for criteria words. They're the ones that make the actual decision to deny your care. And even in the very rare case that it's made by medical personnel, it's unlikely it's made by a board-certified doctor in that particular specialty, and the insurance company didn't want you to know this. And any refusal to give you this information should be reported to the U.S. Office of Civil Rights as a HIPAA violation. Canadians are having a fit about a 25% tariff with the U.S., but when they had a 20% carbon tax increase April 1st put in by Trudeau, they didn't say anything. Rebecca Lubbock, one of the soldiers in the helicopter that hit the airplane in D.C., was a White House aide, just as a matter of interest. Now, there is a list that's been circulated. It's called the Ukraine Kickback List. All the politicians who got money as a kickback for all the grants made to Ukraine is an interesting list. Joe Biden got $92 million. Mitch McConnell, $89 million. Nancy Pelosi, $86 million. Chuck Schumer, $66 million. Lindsey Graham, $82 million. Mitt Romney, $71 million. John Cronin, $41 million. Adam Schiff got $62 million. Dan Crenshaw, $20 million. Mike Pence got Mike Pence and Greg Pence both got money. Rick Scott got $63 million. Hakeem Jeffries got $74 million. I mean, how else do you think they become millionaires when they get elected to Congress? All right. A couple of news stories. Pete Hegseth is heading to the border to address the situation. He's going to give a warning on what Trump team is going to offer. Marco Rubio went to Panama, and the Panamanians have sworn they will distance themselves from China. You know, when Jimmy Carter turned the Canal Zone over to him in 1999, they immediately made a deal with the Chinese. What do we get for turning it over? After building it and maintaining it all those years, we got nothing. The U.S. Agency for International Development said they tracked over 600 workers who reported getting locked out of the computer systems overnight. They remained in the system, got their email stating that the direction of agency leadership, headquarters facility to be closed to agency personnel on Monday. It's said to be a Doge action. He said during an X-Spaces conversation, President Trump agreed that the Agency for International Development should be shut down. We shall see what comes of that. Costco has a scandal going on regarding its DEI. It's defending DEI. Former Costco executive said the critics don't understand the company's culture. He said the term DEI didn't even exist for us. This is how we ran our business. It's who we are. Richard Gere and his family have left the U.S. They're living in Spain. They moved last year. A man was nearly decapitated as debris from the Philadelphia plane crash knocked the hat off his head. He was apparently not seriously injured, but it could have. A packed plane taking off from a major airport caught fire. South Africa has gotten upset at Trump for claiming that they're confiscating land. Well, it's exactly what they're doing, but they're doing it for all the right reasons, of course. New Orleans sued over the Bourbon Street terror attack, accused of negligence. Terrorist named Samsud Din Jabbar of Texas killed 14 civilians, injured 57 others in a New Year's attack. U.S. Capitol Police recruit was killed in a Georgia car crash. Other injured recruits were airlifted to a hospital. Now, what they were doing in Georgia over the weekend is anybody's guess. The Perplexity AI has been on TikTok. Just as a matter of interest. The disgruntled Mavericks fans have protested Luka Doncic's trade with symbolic funeral outside the team's arena. A baby blue coffin, showered with jerseys, fan art, and more, was at the American Airlines Center on Sunday. That's the Dallas Mavericks, don't you know? Their superstar guard was traded. And as I say, they had a fake funeral. Our trans soldiers are being phased out. Being trans is no longer a guarantee of a swift rise to the top. Chicago leaders have encouraged residents to exercise their rights to resist President Trump's deportation policies. ICE is facing pushback from local groups aiding illegal immigrants to hide as its agents are sweeping the city as part of the nationwide illegal immigration crackdown. Windy City nonprofits have launched Facebook groups, apps, and put flyers up across the city with instructions on how to avoid being detained by ICE. All All right. That pretty much takes care of our little news and history segment. You know, one of my favorite topics has long been UFOs. I've been writing about UFOs since the late 70s. Now, there's been a lot of glowing orbs reported, bizarre wreckage found, mysterious light seen. Well, the government has for years said there's nothing to it. But in November 2024, U.S. Congressional Committee held a hearing that would have been previously unthinkable. It directly and seriously addressed the extent of the Pentagon's investigation into UFOs, or now known as unidentified anomalous phenomena. That's the government's new term for UFOs. In one of the most dramatic moments of the hearing, Nancy Mace, the chair of the committee, asked former Defense Department official and UFO believer Luis Elizondo, has the government conducted secret UAP crash retrieval programs, yes or no? And under oath, he said yes. He said, "Let me be clear. UAP are real. Advanced technology is not made by our government or any other government or monitoring sensitive military installations around the globe." Well, no longer are UFO sightings swept under the rug or laughed at by people in power. As a result of strange sightings by military pilots and other credible sources, the Department of Defense has spent tens of millions of dollars researching UFOs and witnesses, from whistleblowers to believers, and they've been given official public forums. Well, while government research has confirmed some UAP reports appear to demonstrate advanced technology with unusual movement patterns or flight characteristics, that does not mean these are spaceships from outer space. The Pentagon still insists there's no evidence any sighting of a UAP represented extraterrestrial technology and flatly denies the government's covering up contact with extraterrestrials. But at least the Pentagon isn't calling witnesses cranks and hiding the reports in a top-secret Project Blue Book any longer. And the hearings and reports of the past few years have only kept the UFO movement alive. Among them, as one report released in 2023 asserts UAPs are not from outer space, then what are they? Spy planes from Russia? Weird environmental phenomena? Or maybe they might be from galaxies far, far away. There's a book by Garrett Graff that goes into UFO in quite a bit of detail. And the book I wrote it's now in its 4th edition, called UFOs, Secret Society, and Ancient Gods. And it on the occult connection, UFOs, Secret Societies, Ancient Gods. You can get it on Amazon. I said the Pentagon's new UFO openness in its own way raises as many new questions as it answers. Unless the Pentagon was 110% certain that it wasn't all made up and farcical, they wouldn't have opened a serious investigation. I mean, our government officials are nuts, but they're not that nuts. You know, for 10 years, until I became politically unacceptable, I spoke at Roswell. But then a couple of well-known authors moved to take control by, I suspect, paying off members of the board. And since my books drastically outsold the one author who thought he was God's gift to the world, I was no longer accepted. Well, it all began in Roswell in July of 1947. The residents of Roswell, New Mexico, saw an interesting headline in their local paper. RAAF, that's Roswell Army Air Force Base, captures flying saucer on a ranch in the Roswell region. The newspaper report quoted officials from Roswell Army Airfield. Said soldiers were scooping up strange metal sticks bundled in tape and foil and heavy glossy paper and chunks of plastic that a farmer found in his field outside of town. The supposed crash landing of a craft from outer space had gone down as the most famous UFO report in history, triggering decades of controversy, backpedaling, clarifications, and finally official admissions. Well, after that initial burst of information and speculation, the Pentagon announced the debris were not a flying saucer after all. It came from a weather balloon with a reflective kite used for radar tracking. So, what they were saying is trained observers who reported a UFO actually misidentified a kite. For decades, this explanation stood without serious challenge until the 1970s. That's when the UFO mania reached its peak, and theories spread that the debris really did come from a spaceship and alien bodies were recovered in a very hush-hush operation. Ufologists screamed that it was an official cover-up, of course, and it wasn't until the 90s that the government acknowledged that there was some validity to the cover-up claims. They admitted the weather balloon explanation was bunk, but they still insisted the UFO reports weren't true. Instead, the government said the debris came from a high-altitude neoprene balloon used to spy on the Soviet Union in a top-secret program called Project Mogul. So, flying over the desert into Mexico, they were spying on Russia. Okay. Well, for some folks, the admission fell flat. In recent years, the family of Jesse Marcel Jr., an Army intelligence officer in charge of the debris collection back in 1947, claims he was told by higher-ups to keep quiet about some of the stuff he found, including a small metal beam imprinted with what he said were purple hieroglyphics from an alien race. As for Roswell, the incident was established a desert town in the southeast corner of the state as a ground zero for all things extraterrestrial. The reputation that it sells to tourists and parlays into TV shows like Roswell and its reboot, Roswell, New Mexico. I've got a piece of the debris that came from that crashed UFO. I got it from Jesse Marcel's son. Well, there's long been stories and speculation that close encounters of the UFOs can make you sick. Well, Vicki Landrum and Betty Cash became violently ill after they saw a bright object in the sky over Texas. Betty Cash said she was terrified. She's afraid to look up now. What? Vicki Landrum's explanation was it had to be a religious experience. She was driving on an isolated road near Dayton, Texas on the night of December 29, 1980. Landrum, a friend Betty Cash, and Landrum's 7-year-old grandson Colby Landrum spotted what they thought were airplane lights hovering over the trees. Now, of course, they gave it little thought because they thought it was a jet landing at Houston's airport. But as they got closer, the lights were revealed to be a giant silver diamond-shaped object shooting flames that made the car's interior hot to the touch and irritated the women's eyes and skin. Landrum, who's a born-again Christian, told her grandson, "That's just Jesus. He's not going to hurt us." Then the women spotted what looked like 23 helicopters, who appeared to be Army Chinooks giving chase. They were convinced at that point that they were really seeing a UFO. The belief reinforced when the women and the boys soon were visited by shadowy government officials urging them to keep quiet about what they saw. According to Colby Landrum, I don't know who they were, whether they were government officials or what, but they'd come out and test us for radiation every so often. He was told to be careful because somebody could scoop him up and take him away. Well, hours after the sighting, women became violent and ill with vomiting and diarrhea and a burning sensation all over. They also had blisters and a feeling of being very weak. Fat Cash was hospitalized for several weeks in January of 1981 and suffered hair loss and claimed the doctors treated her for radiation sickness. When she was later diagnosed with cancer, the women were convinced it was a UFO that got them sick, and the government was covering up what became known as the Cash Landrum incident. They even went to court and sued the government for $20 million, but witnesses from the military denied and the UFO was in the area and denied that the helicopters had been dispatched. Federal judge, one of the gods in black robes, dismissed the woman's case in 1986. Cash died in 1998 at the age of 69, 18 years to the day after her encounter. Random died in 2007 at the age of 83. But the controversy continues. According to Texas Monthly, to this day, there's no conclusive explanation for the night's events. See, part of the problem in a suit of this type is the military is going to lie. They're not going to admit they're out chasing UFOs. Number one, they don't want to appear foolish. Number two, things like this are always classified, don't you know? You know, one of the best-known incidents, of course, is the Lindersham Forest incident. That was a series of sightings and unexplained lights near Royal Air Force Base. It's been nicknamed as Britain's Roswell. You know, according to Deputy Commander at the RAF Woodbridge Base in Suffolk, England, the animals at a nearby farm went crazy. He wrote that after the sky over Lindersham Forest lit up with multicolored lights at about 3 in the morning, December 26, 1980. Military personnel reported what looked like a metal object descending into the adjacent Lindersham Forest and claimed to have found 3 impressions in the ground in a triangular pattern in a forest clearing, along with burn marks and broken branches on a nearby tree. 2 nights later, witnesses saw a flashing light in the eastern sky and 3 star-like lights, seemingly beaming down toward the ground. Well, this has become known as the Rendlesham incident. Established the forest is the UK's version of Roswell, not least because the whole thing been kept under wraps at the time. Years later, the News of the World newspaper ran a story with the headline, UFO lands in Suffolk, and that's official. Well, skeptics suggest some other alternative from lights at the nearby Oxford Lighthouse, meteor burning up over southern England, to a top-secret American-led test of the Apollo Lunar Mission Command Module. There's going to be skeptics, some paid by the government, as a matter of fact, to come up with alternative explanations for anything that the government didn't want to discuss. Well, somebody once asked me how these unexplained aerial phenomena became known as flying saucers. Well, that name, if you will, was created by aviator Kenneth Arnold. He was a private pilot He saw 9 objects near Mount Rainier. But before him, there was no such thing as a flying saucer, at least not in those words. He was a private pilot in Washington State, flying near Mount Rainier, June 24, 1947. He spotted 9 sparkling objects in a V formation he thought was geese reflecting the sunlight. As he flew closer, he saw that there were airliner-sized metallic craft flying at nearly twice the speed of sound. In a subsequent interview, he described the craft as flat like a pie plan and saucer-shaped, which spurred newspaper headline writers to come up with the phrase flying pie pans and flying saucers. The flying saucer term stuck. Arnold first thought he'd seen an experimental military craft, but officials denied any such planes were in the area. And that led the pilot to come up with the only other conclusion. He saw UFOs. He told the Associated Press at the time, everybody says I'm nuts, and I guess I'd say it too if somebody else reported those things. But I saw them and I watched them. Seems impossible, but there it is. And they've been seen and reported routinely to this day. Well, countless Hudson Valley residents claimed to have seen massive objects flying in formation over New York State in the early 1980s. These are not just one or two people seeing one or two things. Along a hotbed of UFO sightings, the skies over the Hudson Valley in New York lit up from 1982 to 1984, where residents described as football field-sized objects flying into V formation. Over 5,000 people claim they saw the same thing, making the site dubbed the Westchester Boomerangs one of the most famous mass UFO sightings in history. Even the staid New York Times quoted witnesses as saying the objects were absolutely noiseless, could shoot straight up into the sky and hover in the air for extended periods of time, and glimmered in brilliant lights of white, red, or green. Discover magazine looked into the matter and reported what people actually saw were likely not UFOs, but a group of Cessna 152 pilots practicing flying at night in tight formations with bright lights and only 6 inches between their wing trips. Now, while that may soothe the fear of people about alien invasion, number one, it doesn't make any sense. You don't fly that close together at night. And it doesn't explain why, for decades after that initial burst of sightings, people are still claiming to see strange things. According to the news organization Patch, New Yorkers filed 46 reports of UFOs in 2023. 4 of them over the Hudson Valley. See, the problem with things like Discover Magazine, they send their reporters out to disprove sightings. And anything that can be used to disprove a sighting is going to be grabbed and expanded on. Sometimes UFOs have been captured on camera. Every year, the people of McMinnville, Oregon, 40 miles southwest of Portland, celebrate UFO Fest. They have music and games and a parade featuring kids and adults dressed up like their favorite Martians, all to commemorate a UFO sighting that produced some very famous photographs. May 11, 1950, farmer Evelyn Trent was feeding her caged rabbits when looked up and spotted a slow-flying metal disc headed toward their farm near McMinnville. Her husband, Paul, grabbed his Kodak camera and snapped black and white images of the disc hovering in the distance. And when those pictures appeared in newspapers and Life magazines, the trips became legends in the annals of ufology. Now, they claim they never made a penny off those photos. They did get a free trip to New York to appear on a TV show, but they didn't get any money in hand. The Air Force and the FBI, of course, searched their house looking for evidence that the pictures were part of a hoax. Trent's died in 1990. They complained about being portrayed as opportunists or nutcases. Their daughter, Tammy Guschenauer, told KVAL-TV that they were the alien family. They were ridiculed. That's all anybody wanted to talk about was the alien family. You know, it's interesting, all the movies that have come out of aliens, one of which was Men in Black. Well, guess what, folks? There really are Men in Black. Herod Dahl got a mysterious visit after his scary encounter on Puget Sound. Just days before the 1947 reports of a spaceship crashing in Roswell, Harbor Patrolman Harold Dahl and his son Charles were on a boat with their dog in Puget Sound in Washington State when Dahl spotted what he said were 6 donut-shaped crafts flying overhead. As they came over his boat, one of the objects seemed to plummet toward the ground, and molten metal shards rained down on Dahl's boat, injured Dahl's arm, and wounded a dog that later died. Next day, according to Dahl, a man in a black suit knocked at his door and brought him to a diner in Tacoma, listened to his story, and warned him not to tell anybody about what had happened. This Maury Island incident of June 21st, 1947 was given that name because it took place near an island by that name. And it did, in fact, draw the attention of authorities, though allegedly not for the reason Dahl would later claim. Government investigators believed it was a hoax and considered filing charges before deciding Dahl and his son had just concocted a harmless joke. See, that's the government's first step. To discredit something is to laugh at it. Nobody wants to be the victim of a joke. Well, that's from Harold Dahl. Let's turn to Lonnie Zamora. He claimed to have encountered a spaceship while on patrol in New Mexico. Socorro, New Mexico, that I've been to a number of times. He was on patrol the evening of April 24th, 1964. Got a call to investigate a possible accident involving a car that plunged into an arroyo when he saw what looked like a balloon and heard a roar. Well, he feared a shack storing dynamite had exploded, so he raced toward the noise, only to spot what he thought was an overturned car. When he got closer, he observed an egg-shaped metallic object with landing gear sitting on the desert sand, and standing next to it were 2 small people. He thought they were either short adults or children, wearing coveralls, and suddenly a flame shot under the object and sped away. At first, he said, after I got to my senses, I said, did I see it or didn't I? When a New Mexico State Police sergeant arrived as backup, the 2 lawmen found marks on the ground and a patch of smoldering brush. Well, the U.S. Air Force Project Blue Book, which many people believe was pretty much a joke, called the Zamora account the best documented case on record because of Zamora's position as a respected cop. Air Force investigation of the Socorro incident characterized the matter as unknown, though some say Zamora may have been the victim of a prank by students at nearby New Mexico Tech using a simple candle inside a balloon to pose as a UFO. Well, in August and September of 1951, hundreds of people, including professors and students of what's now called Texas Tech University, saw blue green lights dashing across the night sky above Lubbock, Texas. With one student even getting a photo of the lights in a V formation with his Kodak camera, the Lubbock Lights incident attracted national publicity, spurred an official investigation by the Air Force that offered a possible explanation. They said The glow from the town's new mercury vapor streetlights was reflecting off the underside of flocks of migrating plover birds. One professor who witnessed the light said the objects were too large and flew too fast to be birds. Others suggested the witnesses saw the Air Force's flying wing jet bomber. Of course, that didn't explain why nobody heard any noise. As you can see from some of the silly explanations that we've covered, the military was under the pressure to just explain them away. And nobody wants to be the odd man out. I had an incident in South America. We actually shot it. We expended over 2,500 rounds of ammunition. When I got back to base, I was told I phoned to stay an officer. I didn't see anything. I didn't hear anything. And we didn't shoot anything. I said, how do I explain 2,500 missing rounds of ammunition? Inventory miscount. And that's how it went in the records. Well, on that note, we come to the end of today's show. We'll be talking more about UFOs and aliens in tomorrow's show. Until then, Ken Hudnall for the Ken Hudnall Show saying have a truly great evening.